My name is Andrew Marlin, and I've been fortunate to hunt and fish all across the United States and beyond. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't trade any of that for the world. But the one thing that I've come to realize is that there's no place quite like home. So sit back, listen in, and enjoy as I take you across the southwestern U.S., highlighting some of the unique hunting and fishing opportunities of the area and sharing the stories of those who partake. You're listening to Dry Ground. Hey, what's going on, everyone? I cannot wait to dive into this interview. But before we do, I definitely want to make sure we take a moment to thank the sponsors of the Dry Ground podcast. I'd like to thank Chris McKagren of Granite Rifle Group for his continued support of the show. Chris makes some fantastic rifles at a very reasonable cost. So don't let the idea of having a custom rifle built scare you or the price of that scare you. Check him out first. You'll be glad you did. He's got some awesome products. Also, I'd like to thank Vantage Point Archery for their support of the show. As you know, I've been shooting Vantage Point products for some time now. They're some of the greatest broadheads I've ever had my hands on. And now they've even moved over into the Vantage Point Armory side. They've got some new firearm accessories and whatnot for you. So make sure you check out Vantage Point Armory as well. I'm looking forward to talking to them now that they're back from SHOT Show about all of their new releases for 2025. Because they are always cranking out new things and they're all great products. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, Jim Shockey. Well, folks, today I'm joined by a very special guest, a man that needs no introduction at all, a true icon in the hunting industry, diehard conservationist, and most importantly, an absolutely fantastic role model for hunters. So without further ado, Mr. Jim Shockey, thank you so much for coming on the show.
That's my pleasure, and thanks for the fancy intro. But really, honestly, I'm just another hunter like everybody else. I just happen to have a camera follow me around for the last 40 years.
When you started hunting, was that something on the list, having a camera follow you around, or how did that kind of evolve?
No, it started. Let's see, what was it? 1984. I wrote my first magazine article. Had it published in Bullbender magazine. $42 for the article. Kathleen Windsor was the editor at that time, and I thought I'd made the big leagues. I mean, Jim Zumbo,
Yeah.
Carmichael, Larry Weishun. I mean, those guys were, and Craig Boddington. I mean, they were the heroes. Jack O'Connor had just finished. Really, was kind of at the end of his career. So writing was where it was at. When those guys walked around the SHOT Show, the shooting, hunting, and outdoor trade show, wherever it happened to be back in those days, they were like little demigods. I mean, there people follow. I remember Judd Cooney standing there. I would have been about 80, probably six at SHOT Show, and he had his buckskins on and the fringes, and he was standing. There was a throng of people around him trying to get his autograph, to get his attention, just to touch him. And I remember standing there with my late wife Louise, and looking. I said, like, look at that. I mean, that guy, everybody knows him. That is so cool that I realized he had done it by accomplishment. It wasn't influencer nowadays stuff. It was accomplishment. People respected him. And that's what I wanted. I wanted the same respect, which I realized meant I had to actually do something, not just say I'm great. Look at me. Never knew I could pitch like that.
Right.
I started writing magazine articles in '84, my first one, and published in just about all the major publications by about 91, American Hunter, Outdoor Life, all those magazines. Um, North American Hunter as well. I had a column in there. But at that time, the cable networks started coming on board. Now, before that, we had three networks, CBS, NBC, and ABC.
Right.
So they controlled whatever we saw. You'd get a bazillion households watching the end of MASH because there was nothing else to watch. That's what we all watched. We watched whatever was on there. So when the cable networks came on board or came on stream, I kind of looked at that and said, wow, there's 1,000 cable networks and they don't have any content.
Mm.
At that same time, starting at about 84, you started getting these little commercial or, for the public consumption video cameras. they started with big VHS machines that you could video. And before that was film. So you couldn't, you had to edit it. It was, I mean, you really had to be a scientist to do it. But with the video cameras at the time, anybody could video whatever they were doing. And so I got one of those little guys and I started playing with a little 8 millimeter at the time. Then it went to super or high eight, then super eight, and then I don't know where it went after that. But it was the exact kind of convergent evolution on video cameras and the availability of network space. So I just put the two together and started filming my hunts. It took a little bit of time to get it going. I think it was 2001 before I got my first air television program, Jim Shockey's Hunting Adventures. But I was doing VHS videos before that. You're probably too young to
I
remember
remember
those, but
VHS. Yeah.
they're about the
Yeah.
size of a computer screen, like big. Um, and then they started getting into the smaller formats over the years. But I got I think I signed the contract for the Outdoor Channel in about 2001. 2002, I believe, was the first airing of my Jim Shockey's Hunting Adventures, which was essentially an extension of my Jim Shockey's Hunting Adventures videos that I was selling at that time. Um, so yeah, it kind of I wasn't planning to do the television stuff, but it was obvious that to me, that's where it was going. And the writers, if they couldn't um, how would you transition well into the visual as well as you're still storytelling. It's
Yeah.
still nothing's changed from the writing to the storytelling on television other than the host. And the writers weren't all capable of making that transition. I was, I had the right look, I guess. I was actually walking the walk. I wasn't a writer who hunted and wrote about hunting. I was a hunter who was writing about hunting,
Okay.
and I did it professionally. I was a outfitter by 92, I think was when I bought my first outfitting territory. So I was a professional hunter. Um, and that worked on television. Plus, I long ago realized right back then, same thing as writing. The best writing is honest writing.
Hmm.
Anybody can be a writer as long as you write honestly. If you're trying to be Steinbeck or Hemingway, it's not going to work. But if you be yourself, and that's good enough, people will gravitate to it, and you'll earn their respect because of that. Television, I realized I couldn't act. I mean, I really couldn't act at the start. I was like, "Hi, I'm Jim Shaw. Hope you're having a great day, and I really am excited about today's show." It's horrible, but the more natural you are, the more it resonates with the audience. So for whatever reason, that all worked, and they said it wouldn't because I was going to do hunting adventures everywhere around the world,
Mhm.
and the powers that be at the time said it's going to fail because you have to be turkeys or whitetails or no one's going to watch this. And I said, I don't think so. I think hunting isn't about killing something. Hunting is, the kill is this much of it, and then there's this huge circle around. What we're doing right now is hunting, is camaraderie. We're talking about hunting. We're telling stories about hunting. We're visiting about hunting. We're thinking about it. We're training for it. Or you look like you're training. I maybe not. I need to
No,
get back.
I
But,
was going to ask you about that later. I think you're doing just fine on that front.
but yeah, it was. I wanted to tell stories, and by the way, that's now transitioned into social media.
Hmm.
That's where it's at. Streaming videos. This is, still writing. I mean, I still write the odd article, still do television shows or shock therapy, and we produce two television shows for the Aboriginal People's Television Network up here in Canada. Um, so that's still going, but you've also got online, which we started in 10, 12 years ago. But I can tell you about that. But anyway, all I've done is look for opportunities to tell stories. And the story that I want to tell is that hunting and hunters should be respected. And here's the reasons why they should be respected. And as opposed to the mainstream media, which says these guys are louts that spit on the floor and no higher sensibilities. So I've just gone with whatever media is the way to get that out to the public, the storytelling. So now we're writing and doing television and doing the social media and podcasts.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things I really respect about you is that you are unapologetically a hunter. And you kind of brought that up in talking there. And I feel like in today's world, there's so much pressure to be apologetic for wherever you are, whether it's politically, religiously. But in the context of this, why is it so important to you to be unapologetically a hunter?
Well, tell me, what's there to apologize for?
Absolutely.
Like, give me one thing to apologize for other than other people think it's wrong. You know, it's if everybody in the world thinks something's wrong and you know it's right, does it make it right to do what they're doing?
Mm,
Of course, it doesn't matter what, we have to bear in mind that the vast majority of these people that are, demanding that we apologize, they don't demand we apologize. They demand that we disappear. We don't exist. But the vast majority are urban people that have no clue what we do or don't know anything about wildlife, don't know anything about conservation. They want to save wildlife. Their hearts are in the right place, but they would save wildlife to death if
mm,
they could. They don't realize they're doing it by their actions. So, you can't blame them. They're I don't want to say it negatively, but they're ignorant. They don't know the facts. So again, I could care less what 800 people think. If I know something's right, it's right. It's right. And why would I apologize? Well, I mean, and also, to be fair, when they try and bully us into doing it, um, you can never succumb to that. You can never ever let a bully, beat you up to and make you say something's wrong when it's right. So, and that's what they bully us into by threatening us with, I guess, killing us on social media, or canceling us.
yeah.
Like, there's going to be thousands of us tell you you're horrible, and so
Yeah.
what? Like, really, what are you going to do? Send me home? Like, it's not a, it's just not a thing. And so I could care less what other people think. I mean, don't get me wrong when I say that. When I know something's right, I care less. I'll listen, but
Sure.
you're not going to hurt me by calling me a scumbag, dirtbag, low life, whatever, that kills animals. I mean, yeah, okay. And you just drove your car here and hit 500 grasshoppers and drove over three birds, and like, please, the hypocrisy. Don't tell me that. Let alone that you're wearing a leather belt and leather shoes, and even if you're vegan, you're still driving on a highway that you killed animals. I don't care who you are.
Right.
You're just not going to get away from it because there's 8 billion of us in this world. We take up a lot of space on this planet, and that means space that wild animals can't exist in the same space anymore. So everybody's responsible. It's none of this, give me a break. You're all responsible. So no, I don't. Why would I apologize for something that's so right and always has been right? And we know we're helping wildlife with our efforts. Yeah, we care. We genuinely care, and we genuinely do something about it.
I love it. Well, let's dive in to your sheep hunt. But before we do, you're here in Arizona, and I noticed in following along with your trip here, you spent quite a bit of time in Tucson, which is my hometown. And over the years, I've noticed you spend quite a bit of time here. Is that true?
Yeah, I was spending time there before you were born. I had an uncle that was he used to be with Anaconda Mines in Peru, and then moved up to Tucson
Oh,
with his
wow.
family, cousins, and my aunt, and was a manager of a big mine there, an open pit mine somewhere out in the country.
Okay.
Um, so, and he was Uncle Eddie. He was so exotic to me because he lived in Peru and gone on the Amazon, and had pictures of toucan and the Aboriginal people there. And I mean, I pestered my parents. We got to go to Tucson. I mean, we were Saskatoon. I grew up in a trailer park. We didn't have the money to go to Tucson, but eventually my parents acquiesced twice when I was young, and I think I was probably about 10 when I was thinking about starting the museum. In fact, one of the pieces from that original trip to Tucson, it's a tarantula somewhere in the museum here.
Oh,
The
wow.
So I went to Tucson and we went to the Sonora Desert Museum just
Yeah.
outside of, and what's the place? Deadwood? No, where they shoot the movies.
Old Tucson.
Old Tucson. Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, I was hooked on Tucson. I would live in Tucson as my first choice as a place down in the States. I mean, I live up in Canada, got a place in Pinehurst,
Sure.
in the ranch in Saskatchewan. So my time is kind of divided up in those three places. But I've loved Tucson since I was that age. To me, it's an exotic desert. You got the mountains and
Mhm.
the colors in the evening. It's spectacular. There's saguaro cactuses, and then you go to the White Mountain Apache Reserve, and it's cold, and there's giant elk, and I mean, and pine forests. It's a super cool. I mean, I love Arizona, period, but Tucson specifically. Phoenix is nice. I mean, I have the Poison Pen bookstores there, which is, my favorite bookstore on the planet, and there's some pretty good golf in Phoenix and Tucson. I held my golf tournament there, my charity event that I've hosted for over 10 years now, for 6 years in Tucson at the what was it, Ventana Canyons.
Canyon, yeah.
Yeah, loved it. We could that one hole I'd sit on and challenge everybody at the golf tournament, bet them that I could get closer to the pin than the foursome, whoever the foursome coming through. And we would be, it's their signature hole, beautiful little over a canyon hole, not far, 118 yards. And Sharon Stone's house is right there. So I'd sit there the whole day of the actual golf tournament watching to see if I could see Sharon and way better. But I only got one hole in one in all those years of hitting that stupid ball at that hole, trying to beat the teams. But it was at Tucson, the Gem and Fossil Show. I just made reservations, airplane reservations. I'll be there in 10, 12 days. Whenever I go to New Zealand tomorrow, day after tomorrow, come back in 8 days after that, and the day after that, head down to Arizona to the Gem and Fossil Show. I love it,
Yeah.
Tucson. So Tucson and the antiquing that you guys have there is fabulous. I bought four squash blossom necklaces for the lady I'm seeing, and a fifth one for Eva. Well, I bought it for Tim, who gave it to Eva for her birthday, January 8th or January 9th. So no, January 5th. So I mean, Tucson, like literally, probably I've spent more time in Tucson over the last year than I have at any one of my own homes.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, there's how much I like Tucson. Who's ever down there living there, you're very fortunate. It's one of the most beautiful places to live in the world.
Wow. I had no idea you had such a deep connection here. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's a special place.
Yeah, half a century connection, more than half a century. Oh my gosh, holy cow! Almost a 60-year connection to it. Oh, do I have gray hair? Does it show?
Not at all.
So, yeah, right. You're supposed to tell the truth on a podcast. That's definitely not the truth. But yeah, I love Tucson, love Arizona. Prefer Tucson, by a factor of 100 over Phoenix personally. But
Yeah.
no offense to the Phoenix guys, but yeah, Tucson it's got everything. It's got everything.
Do you typically stay at Ventana Canyon when you're in town?
I don't now. I'm going to stay at the Casa del Sol, I think it's
Uh-huh.
called.
Yeah.
Little, 40 room resort. Love it. A friend of mine, Brian Johnson, he managed the Ventana Canyons for years. And then now he manages the Casa del Sol. So I'll stay there just so I can be with him and have dinner with him and Linda one night. And yeah, just, but I've also stayed at the Gem and Fossil Show right close downtown there
Oh,
somewhere
yeah.
when I was be down there by myself and no one else was around. I'd go down for 5 or 6 days, rent a car. And actually, I didn't even rent a car. I'd walk mostly from down, walk, put miles on looking at the show. I'd take my hiking boots and go. I just love it. Love it. I've got a new lady. So this year I'm actually probably going to have to go to the gem part of the Gem and Fossil Show because I've never done that before. I've always gone to the fossil part of the Gem and Fossil Show, but this year I'll have to go look at tanzanite and savarite and probably diamonds actually.
And will she be coming down with you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, we're pretty close. So just she
That's
loves to
awesome.
travel. She was well, we don't. I mean, I don't know if you want to even get into that, but she's
Sure.
an ex-lawyer from Southern California, passed the bar there and hated it, and went on to move to Nashville as a and works in her family's business still in California, mortgage titles business, and
Okay.
yeah, so her and I, we met almost a year ago today,
Oh, wow.
actually. Just met, just where I saw this lady and asked her if she was married, and she said no, kids, no. Never been married, no. She and obviously older, although she everybody says, oh, you're going out with, someone younger than your daughter, which does not make Eva very happy, by the way, everybody. So spare your jokes because you're just hurting saying, she's older than my children and just looks way younger because she's, I mean, probably never had kids to drag her down. Eva and Brandlin, see, this is the reason I look so old because of you guys. But yeah, so we, yeah, she loved travel. She's been to 40 countries around the world and she's free to travel. She has her own money. She has houses in Nashville. In fact, we were just there this last week at SCI. I just got back yesterday. The show's been over for 2 days, but we went one of her houses just to get it ready for the next renter. So we
Okay.
were working down there. But yeah, she's people say gold digger. Oh my God, I would I would throw away my money for her money that she's made. That's her, not born with a silver spoon. She's made it. She's and loves to travel. So yeah, she'll be with me in Tucson when I get down there.
So, I mean, you've got the traveling in common, but it seems like from what I've seen, it's two different worlds meeting. How did you two meet?
Yeah, yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it. I mean, I'm sure all the hunter guys out there are going, you hear about killing stuff, but it's all part of hunting, and I lost my wife Louise back in 2023, 39 years, 113 days, 14 and a half hours, literally exactly to the minute. That's how long I lived a fairy tale with that lady. I was faithful, never cheated on her. I just knew I was, married way above my station. And, I met Louise at a dance class because, and this all will segue to it's a segue, but it'll get back to your question, how do we meet? When I was 26, I realized it was time I'd gone out with all the model girls in Vancouver. I was modeling at Vogue magazine, 1984, September. There's a full page ad with me. And, so I had gone out with all the model girls, very pretty, but there was just, not there for me, not what I was looking for. And so I was thinking to myself one day, where would you find someone, who's beautiful is maybe I'm facile. I'm sorry, everybody, if that offends anybody, but, nice and, is physically attractive. And I was thinking to myself, well, and I was hunting, I was hunting. And I said, well, what would I do if I was hunting in a desert? Well, I'd sit at a water hole. Seems like a pretty smart thing to do. So while all my buddies were headed to the bar, I said, no, and then they're going to little rutting, fighting and displaying and all that stuff. And I said, no, you know what? Dance class. There's got to be girls at a dance class. And I'd never danced a step in my life. So I called up, looked in the yellow pages at the time, which nobody knows what they are now, but the biggest ad was for a dance studio called Terpsichore. And I called them up and said, do you have dance classes? They said, that's what we do. And I said, well, what about tonight at 5 o'clock? And they said, yeah, we've got advanced ballet jazz with Louise. And I go, perfect. I'm headed to that class. So I show up at 5 o'clock. There was 30 beautiful women that were, dressed in all little tights and I had it was 1984, so I had my tightest little red shorts that ever existed. They would be illegal today. And I had split up the sides so just to the band. So I mean and I had a little white muscle shirt. Nowadays I think they call them wife beaters, but in the day I was hot. Or I thought it was anyway. And my little ribbon headband on silver. And I walked 30 beautiful women, all getting ready to dance, dressed in little tights. There was one gay guy, and and the teacher, when I walked in, I said, "Oh my goodness, that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life." And they were doing West Side Story. They were the choreography. They were three-quarters of the way through or two-thirds of the way through it. So they'd been doing it for weeks and knew all the steps. I'd never danced a step in my life. This was advanced ballet jazz. And so, we are the Jets and the Jets every day. And I was dancing and doing pas deux and jetés across the floor. I had no idea. Position one, position two, all this stuff, the bar. And, uh, and I was in love. I was in love, head over heels in love. And I asked the dance instructor after. I mean, the thing about it is, like I said, there's no competition there. So, all my buddies looking for wives or girlfriends were at the bar fighting against each other, and I was at dance class with zero competition and trying to do what they enjoyed, right? So, I mean, it was thought it was cute, even though I was a total klutz and an idiot. That was the one and only dance class I ever went to my life, and I married the dance instructor 6 months later. And this is what I tell people that and we were married for 39 years, 113 days, 14 and a half hours, or we were together for that long. That 6 months I counted in there. You're hunters, which is all going to get back to your question, how do we meet?
Yeah.
Um, you hunt. I mean, you hunt. That's what I did. I went to a water hole and no competition. Everybody had to come there. And there's no guys, like no other predators around, just me, which I don't want to call myself a predator, but I was certainly looking for, and asked Louise out, and she said yes. Well, she said no, I don't date people that went out with people she knew because she knew all the other actresses and
Oh,
and
okay.
uh, and models in town, and they all knew who Louise was. I found out she was, and I said, well, it'll be the biggest mistake of your life if you say no. And she said, I remember her turned her head and she told me later that she kind of said, "You son of a gun, a little confident little fucker." And so she said, "Okay, we'll go, but just a walk on a beach, not an actual date." And we went on a walk on the beach, and that was June 1st, 1984. And from that minute, I knew this was the woman I was going to marry. It took her 6 months to figure that out, but or to actually do it. She said yes 5 months later to marry me. But it was hunting. I mean, I knew what I was looking for. If you're going to go on the sheep hunt in Arizona, I wanted a Boone and Crockett Ram heavy. I didn't care how long it was, always heavy, broomed off. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, and I just wanted that. I wanted mass. I wanted, and so I set a goal for myself, and I hunted till I found, and I in a way kind of cheated by going to the water hole. But all you young guys out there, I will guarantee that I'm giving you the recipe to go find a lady in your life and maybe the one you'll marry forever, and be in love with forever or however long forever lasts. But yeah, so when I lost Louise, we had 2 years of the deepest, saddest sorrow. I mean, people will judge. They will sit outside that in their relationships, or maybe they're divorced, wherever they are, but they haven't lost a soulmate. They have no concept of how deep that sorrow, the grief, the horror, when they tell you you've got 3 months to live and you're there with the person you love. You thought die together at, 100 years old, Thelma and Louise off a cliff or something. That's what you believe. And so 2 years I was caregiving Louise. They gave her 3 months and she lasted almost exactly 2 years. And we had lots of time during that time to talk. Every day we held hands for 10 hours every day and looked over our property. And she got less and less able to do anything physically. That was a long time. We that's all we did. She sat there and would sleep on the couch and look out at our beautiful property at the lake, and I would sit with her and hold hands and we'd talk, about her future and about my future. And that's when you grieve. And it's a luxury, it's a gift to be able to grieve together. You know, that when you lose a spouse, now I'm not talking a spouse that you fight all the time. Louise and I never fought ever. We were like, it was true deep love, and I was more in love with her the day she died than I was at the start, and it was deep then. You know, you, you, I'm talking about when you lose a soulmate that is your life. You know, that's who we were together almost 40 years, and we loved each other. If it would have been, I would have traded with her in a heartbeat. Traded with her, happily gone through what she went through. But to see her slowly waste away and her life slowly fade, you know, during that time, if you love somebody, you don't want them to die with you. You know, and this is what people that are on the outside, never have gone through this, don't understand. You know, they think, oh, it's too quick. And that's the most horrible thing you can say to anybody. Anybody out there that that knows somebody going through this, don't hurt them more than they're already hurt. You know, they need to live on afterwards. And some people don't. Some people just choose not to. And that's wonderful. I mean, Hollywood has made a fortune on, you know, Cleopatra, you know, clutching the ass to her chest and dying. I mean, this is Hollywood's made a fortune of that bullshit, and it's fine if that's what you want to do, then do it. Hey, you know, however you have to deal with your grief, and if you can't tolerate the idea of living on past the loss of your spouse, then die. Absolutely 100% and good for you. You know, that's I'm whatever it takes to recover, if that's your recovery, then do it. Some people, you know, that's how they identify for years afterwards. You know, they clutch onto that and woe is me, and that's great. You know, fine. But there's a lot of people that want to live on because that's our nature as animals is to live on. You know, we to survive. That's what we're designed to do, and especially those of us who hunt. You know, we love deeply. We live deeply too. And so you know, when Louise passed away, what I tell people, look, when you get that diagnosis, that's the worst day of your life.
Mm.
You sit there with a doctor at your home and they tell you this fairy tale is going to end. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. You can chase around to Mexico and do all kinds of crazy stuff and chase, you know, that's hope and that's great, that's wonderful. But ultimately, you know, I mean, we're all going to face it. You're just not going to escape it. And, you know, now you know how long you have. So you start living day to day, which as hunters we kind of do anyway. You know, the hope and the despair and the, you know, we want to go out there even though we know weather's bad. Haven't seen anything in a month. You know, we're going to sit there all day and nothing's, but we still go because we have hope. And that's, you know, that living day to day I was well acquainted with. And because I'm a hunter, you know, I've lost 3 pilots over the years. You lost many friends that started on the same journey as I did. And so you understand life and death. It just is, it's a real thing and we understand it. We met death all the time. You know, that's what how we provide for our families. So you live day to day. And then as you get closer, you start living hour to hour, then you live minute to minute, then you live second to second, and then your soulmate's gone. Louise died in my arms. She took her last breath right in my arms. And at that point, you start living second to second yourself alone, and you try and make it to minute. If you can get to minute, you know, then there's hope that maybe you can get to hour of existence without your soulmate, the person that you were with for almost 40 years for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, hour to hour, you're starting to cure yourself. You're starting to live again, breathe, and not, you know, not be dying inside. And if you're strong enough, you make it to day, strong enough. I mean, some people choose never to get past that, and that's okay too. That's their choice. No one else can judge that unless they've gone through it. Then they can say, oh, you know, there is another way, but that's for them, themselves. Each person, it's individual. And then if you're really fortunate, you make it week to week. and then month to month. And this all comes back to your question, how did I meet Serena? It was my golf tournament that I've hosted for 10 years. I told you about it in Tucson.
Yeah.
For 6 years, we had it there, then in South Carolina, and now it's in Georgia. Um, and it's the Jim Shockey charity golf event. If anybody wants to look it up, it's a classic, I think, Jim Shockey Classic. Welcome. We'll be there. Serena will be there. Eva and Tim are usually there. The grandkids sometimes are there, depending if they get a babysitter. And I've hosted that for 10 years. And last year, Louise was gone. It was at SCI, Safari Club International Convention in Nashville. And I told the Freedom Hunters, who are the foundation that run, we run the event through them. So that it's all hands off. Nobody takes a penny. This is all volunteer, and it goes into the Freedom Hunters to take veterans of the armed forces, 1 in 10 Canadians and 90% of them Americans, to take them on outdoor adventures, fishing trips, hunting trips all around the world, all expense paid. And we've raised, I think, close to $1 million, over $1 million over the years
Incredible.
to do that. I mean, the numbers in the over 10,000 members of the armed forces we've taken, veterans. So I told my, look, I have 4 booths at SCI at Nashville. It's a great event. There's going to be tens of thousands of visitors. I'll give you one of my booths to use for the charity golf event. I have to sign for my novel, Call Me Hunter, over that side. How come I can't get this thing backwards?
Other shoulder.
There you go. It's totally opposite for me. Um, so I said, but we need somebody that represents the golf tournament and my brand well. And I said, no offense, guys, but these guys they're not generals. They're although we had, like, last year, four four-star generals attended my event.
Oh, wow.
Amazing, amazing men and women of the armed forces come, high ranking, but the guys that run my event are, they're just guys. And I said, you guys are wonderful, but if I was you for this event at SCI, I would get someone that's educated, articulate, it has a good style and presence. Number one, you're representing my brand in my booth, and
Hmm.
we don't have the same shirts. Well, I don't. I'm the one that's allowed not to, but my team does. And I said, if I was you, just a little recommendation, I'd get a woman to do it, and have our banner there, and a table will get, and I said, but make sure it's not a booth babe. It's got to be someone that's, can not,
Yeah.
can represent what we represent, style, grace, quality, all these things that are important to me. And to their credit, they found Serena.
Okay.
So yeah, so I walk in the booth the first day of the show, and there's, I mean, she's obviously very beautiful, and but it's professional. I'm not, and she's hired to do that, to, tell people about our golf event. So how are you doing? Nice to meet you. We took a picture. That was about a year ago today, actually. And on the fourth day of the show, I came in the morning, and all my guys, and they're big, you know, mountain guys. Like, they're not, they're tough guys that have walked the walk in the wilderness. They're not the most suited for downtown New York City. And I walked in, they're all eating cookies, like literally two-fisting these cookies into their pie holes. And they said, "Have you tried the cookies?" I said, "Cookies? Where'd you get these cookies?" And they're still warm. They're still warm. The chocolate, chocolate all down their faces. And I said, "Where'd you get them?" He said, "Well, Serena baked them this morning." And I said, "The lady's been working the booth." Now, to be fair, I didn't know she had a boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. I knew she was very attractive, and I was signing books in the booth right beside her. They're open,
Hmm.
and I tried as often as I could to be there signing books close to her. This year, she was laughing at me because I was hardly in the booth at all signing books. But last year, I was there a lot, and I, again, back to the hunting part. I was hunting for something. I had 40 years of fairy tale. I know what true love feels like. I know what it looks like. And I knew what I needed for me to be happy in my life. And I was looking for that. I've been dating and nice ladies, wonderful, beautiful ladies, but not, wasn't for me. That, I realized by then, because of my lifestyle, marrying a divorcee, that had an ex-husband that's, blah, 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 and all that
Yeah.
angst and anxiety and drama, and if they had children, I've got children that are growing, so they're not at home. I don't need to fight custody battles and be there 2 days a week to take them to school and dance class, and my kids are growing. Um, so I realized by then I was really, you guys talk about unicorns. I was looking for somebody who was, age appropriate is relative. Believe me, we can talk about that too. But all your hunter guys are going, oh God, I'm turning to the football game right now. But yeah, I was hunting for something, and I knew what I was looking for. Someone never married, no kids, not a divorcee, and and so that's when I first saw her, where I actually this lady who's so beautiful and obviously, good with people, because I've been watching her too while I was signing books and doing my best to be sweet to everybody. If it was somebody that she's not going to go out with me without some context. She had absolutely zero idea who I was. No idea. No idea any accomplishments. He's just some guy that, for a golf tournament that she was going to, tell people about. That's all she knew about me, period. She's a non-hunter, lifetime vegetarian. And I'm talking about like no fish, no chicken, no meat of any kind. And it's because of, now I know it's just it's actually what she has to eat. She can't meet, I don't know if she doesn't have enzymes to digest it, whatever, but it doesn't make her feel well. It's just purely because of that. And her taste is, she can taste one molecule of something on something, like
Mm.
it's crazy. So it's me. I eat everything. I don't care if it's a worm, I don't care if it's cooked or not cooked. I'll just eat it. And maybe I just don't taste well enough to know some of it tastes crappy, but she knows. Anyway, I went over to her and I said, "You bake cookies for my guys?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah, I bake. I love baking." And I said, "You love baking, and you're doing this?" I said, "You married?" And she said, "No. Do you have kids?" "No, never married. No, never married. I was waiting for the right guy." And that's when that was a year ago today, when I saw her and I said, I want to talk to you. I have to go sign books, but I want to talk to you. And I'll be back as soon as I can. So I had to go sign at a booth. I came back, she was gone. And this is where the Arizona part comes into this whole story. I came back and she was gone. The guy said, yeah, she had to leave. There's some other event she has to go attend. And did anybody get her number? No, I never got her number. And I called her boss. No way she would give me the number. So then my social media guy said, "Oh, I got her number." Eventually, I
Hmm.
figured it out. So I called her and said, "Well, I know you live here. How about lunch tomorrow? Or maybe dinner tomorrow night. I'm still here for an extra day." And she said, "Well, sure, fine, but only if you're going to be in Arizona, and I'm going to be in Phoenix tomorrow. I'm going to the Management Golf Tournament."
And Scottsdale.
She hosts a VIP booth at the 16th hole, and
Okay.
has and I said, you're going to Phoenix. Well, you're never going to believe this. And this is a true story. And this is where the universe starts coming in on this whole thing. And this is hunter's luck, right? All you hunters out there, sometimes you just have to rely on hunter's luck.
Just comes together.
Yep. And I had told my office, I said, look, and I was single and I'm just, I didn't want to go home and sit at home and, it's lonely there. So I said, look, I want to go to the Gem and Fossil show in Tucson. So book me a flight there. My office screwed up and booked me to Phoenix. And I said, oh
No
my,
kidding.
how can you screw this up? I said, okay, don't change it because it's gonna be hard to get into Tucson anyway. I'll just rent a car and drive down. Phoenix is a cool place, so I'll go to my bookstore, Poison Pen, and I'll drive down to Tucson to the Gem and Fossil show. So she said, unless you're going to be in Phoenix tomorrow, and I said, well, you won't believe this, but I'm going to be in Phoenix the day after, and you're there for 4 days. So how about a date there? And she kind of, on the phone said, oh, and I said, it's true. I'm not stalking you. This is true. I can prove it. And she said, okay. So we had our first date in Phoenix, March 9th last year, this 2024. And and we knew at the end of that, absolutely. This is again the universe and hunter's luck, because she travels a lot, as I said, and I said, look, we got to see each other again, and you know that. And she said, yeah, well, I get it, I understand. And she said, but I got to go to Raleigh, North Carolina. I've never been there. I'm going to Raleigh, North Carolina tomorrow. And I said, wow, you won't believe this. I got a house in Pinehurst. I have flights for the day after to Raleigh, North Carolina. And so that was that. And we've been like that ever since. So it's, yeah, it's been or actually the first date in Phoenix was February 8th.
Okay.
And yeah, March 9th of this last year, I asked her if she'd be my girlfriend, and we've been together ever since. So, moral of the story, everybody that's listened to this whole thing, all you hunter guys that want to hear about a sheep hunt in Arizona, if you're looking for a relationship, you're a hunter. You're the best at it. You are the best at it already. Just look at it as hunting. Not in a negative way hunting, but
Yeah.
like we do it, methodically search, look for tracks, look for sign, know what you're after, and don't just get wishy-washy and I'll settle for that. Why would you? You settle, you're going to be unhappy. If you're a hunter, who you shoot that small sheep, yeah, it's legal, but it's a squeaker. You're going to have to look at that for the rest of your life. And does that make you proud every time you see that? Or you set your goal ahead of time and don't settle. Don't settle. Find someone, find whatever you're looking for, and anything less isn't worthy of you. And just a quick segue, by the way. Okay, this one. I'm sorry, I'm a storyteller. What can I say?
No,
Uh,
I'm all
if your
about
guys if your guys are bored, tell them to phone you in right now and say, get that guy off there. But
it.
this is a true story. There was a psychologist, a doctor, um, a woman about 10 years ago, and she had the theory that women are attracted to hunters. They're attracted for her theory that she was promulgating is that it was, they want someone who can protect and provide. And hunters,
Yeah.
and historically, we know this to be a fact, and it's still a fact today. But she said in our world, it just the women don't get a chance to even meet a hunter. So she did a study, 2,200 women, just randomly selected women, and she picked the top athletes in each sport. At the time, it was Tony Romo,
Mhm.
football guy,
Yeah.
um, Alexander Ovechkin for hockey, um, LeBron James for basketball, and some baseball guy. And then the top in our industry apparently was me. So she put it out there to 2,200 women and said, who would you like to marry? Unmarried woman. I got 78% of the vote. And I mean,
Wow.
that wasn't 10 years ago. I was in my 50s already. And I walked around the house telling Louise I was the sexiest man in the world for the next for the next about month before she finally put a kibosh and said, enough, you're not the sexiest guy. But this is a true story, guys out there. And again, we're talking relationships here. Hunting isn't about a kill. Hunting is a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's a philosophy of the way you live your life. And the hunt is a little sliver of that. The kill is a little tiny bit of that. I said earlier, what we're doing right now is the camaraderie. We're telling stories. This is what hunters do. But it's not just a round, two-dimensional surface. It's actually a ball. And hunting is a tiny sliver in that ball. And the rest of this is all of this, relationships, your job, the way you live life, your field to table lifestyle. This is all part of it. Friendship, family, honor, tradition, these 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 great, I guess, character traits that our countries are built on, Canada and the States. That's who we are. We are the ones that brought everybody to the dance. Going back historically, before 10,000 years ago, we weren't an agrarian culture. We were hunter-gatherers, all of us. We're the ones that the women wanted to be with because we provided and protected, and it still to this day stands. So guys, if you're out there going, "Oh, I can't find somebody or nobody," you're just looking in the wrong places. Get out there and hunt just like you would, you know, for an animal, except obviously you're not killing them. You're hunting for love. So there's a long way of saying how I met Serena. Um, and yeah, I've been blessed to twice in my life find love, true love that yeah, we can go on about the age difference because, Serena's younger than I am, but that means nothing to us. Certainly not to her. Otherwise, she wouldn't be with me. And it's not gold digger because I don't have the money and she could have married, 100, guys with 150 million or more dollars. I mean, guaranteed she had a lot more opportunities than this scuffy guy from out in the mountains somewhere, that hunts, and she doesn't even hunt, doesn't eat meat. Like, so gold digger, that's a joke. I mean, it's I'm the luckiest guy in the world that she sees through all that crap and accepts me for 1 + 1 = 1. That's what we are.
Well, I couldn't be more happy for you. And like you said earlier, when you know it's right, who cares what everyone else thinks, right?
Same thing as hunting. Who cares? It's not 10,000 people and I know that the guys are probably sick of this, but social media. Do you follow me on social media?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so you see, like I'll post pictures, and I'll do it sometimes. I detest bullies. I don't want to say I hate bullies because I don't hate anything. Hate is a terrible word. I detest bullies. And I know how many people DM me, I think it's called, direct
Yeah.
message me
Yeah.
with, that I've gone through the same thing you are, and my family wouldn't let, I'm so lonely and I'm, grieving and I'm at home in this quiet house and I want to find someone to love again. I had love, I want companionship, I don't want to be lonely, but they're afraid of what their friends say. What do their friends think? Oh, that's too early, whatever. They didn't go through it,
Hmm.
so they reach out to me and I get them by the hundreds. And they're thanking me, saying, "Thank you for standing up. You've given me hope. You've given me light. I can see that they're at the end of this tunnel, this dark tunnel, there's actually life for me." I do it for them. So I do that. I also do it because it, you know, entertains people. Like, read the comments and I stand up to the bullies because they need to be stood up to. And people say, don't listen, don't. No, they're bullies. They're bullies. Stand up to them. Don't ignore them. Don't, yeah, I can block and delete. And if they're really, truly ugly people, there's no hope. But
Yeah.
every once in a while, I'll take them to task and kind of point out their inadequacies, which, as a hunter with the anti-hunters, they point out our supposed inadequacies all the time. But I mean,
Oh, yeah.
really, guys. So anyway, I don't know if I'm allowed to do what I just did, but I just did it.
You
So
all
I
for it.
stand up to the bullies on social media, and it's the same thing for hunting. When they come at me for hunting, I'll do the exact same thing. They're bullies. They're trying to scare me, and we're gonna have you canceled. There's gonna be hundreds of us. Well, I don't give a shit. Pardon my language. There's hundreds of thousands of us, literally, and this we are, as long as we're together on this, together working towards the benefit of wildlife, because that's what we really need for us to continue to hunt. We have to have viable populations. So yeah, we're doing it as self-serving because we want more animals so we can hunt, but we want more animals. People out there don't want more animals. They want us gone,
Hmm.
the anti-hunters. So you got to stand up to that and say, no, so we're defending the animals. We're here, yeah, one gets killed, but you save 100. One gets killed, but you save 1,000 in Africa, places like that. Otherwise, it'd all be gone if that money didn't go to the community. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so social media is a double-edged sword that when it's used properly, it's a great way for us to create a community of like-minded believers in this passion that we all have, which is wildlife and conservation, love of it. So yeah, social media, I've fought a lot of battles on there
Yeah.
with the keyboard warriors in their mama's basement, as everybody says. But they're not. They're just rude, ugly people that are thoughtless and they might be unhappy in their own lives and they want to foist that unhappiness on everybody else. So yeah, I'll always fight the battle. I will never apologize for being happy in my own life and being a hunter. That's everybody else's problem.
That's right. Nor should you apologize.
Never.
Well, I think we should probably get into the sheep hunt.
Okay. Well,
I,
the guys are out there. Finally, they're going to tune back in. Yeah, get
but
rid of all.
I will say that being a hunter definitely affects your relationship with the world, and I don't think anyone could have quite put it to words the way that you did. So that's awesome. So As an outfitter yourself,
Mhm.
when you draw a coveted tag, for those that might not know, a sheep tag in Arizona, rocky or desert, is a once in a lifetime hunt. So for that important of a tag, knowing what you know from being a professional outfitter and a very reputable one at that, how do you go about picking who you go hunt with on something like that?
You know, I've made some mistakes over the years, like some bad mistakes. Drove all night to get to a place, get there, and the guy, in Alberta for a mule deer hunt, and 24 hours or whatever it was, 20-hour drive to get out there, and I pull into the yard at first thing in the light in the morning, and here I am, I'm dead exhausted, but let's go hunting. I'm so excited. And he said, okay, well, we got to wait till about 8. And I said, why do we got to wait? Well, because people have to be up when we knock on their doors for permission to hunt.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I said, you mean you have no actually? He said, well, no, I was going to ask today. And well, so I literally had a cup of coffee, heard that, turned around, went home. And
Yeah.
uh, another quick story. I was going to hunt a sheep in Turkey, and so my cameraman and I flew all the way over to Turkey to Istanbul, and it's supposed to be a free range sheep, a very hard to get tag, and
Mhm.
someone had canceled, so I get this free range sheep hunt, a particular species that only exists in Turkey, and when we landed in Istanbul, you have an expediter meet you, on the far side of customs to clear your guns and whatnot. So I have my gun, and he was there behind, and I said, I'm so excited about this, so we don't even have our bags yet. I said, this free range sheep hunt, like I've been dreaming about this. This is so lucky, and I paid a lot of money for this hunt, like a
Sure.
lot of, even though it's a cancellation hunt and you couldn't afford the full price, but cancellation maybe cheaper. And he said, free range, and I said, yeah, free range sheep hunt. That's what I booked. And he said, I think it's behind a high fence. And I said, what?
Mhm.
He said, yeah, I think it's behind, but I don't know. So I hadn't gone through customs and immigration in Turkey yet. I, got a hold of the outfitter, and I said, what, this guy, the expeditors tell me this isn't a free range hunt. He said, well, it's not. It's kind of free range because, the sheep come from free range when they put them in there, behind. I said, "Oh my God! Like,
Oh my.
really? I've just flown, and it's a long ways to get to Turkey
Yeah.
from Vancouver Island, and my cameraman too. I paid for him." And I said, I'm not going to hunt this sheep behind a high fence, and I have nothing against high fence hunting. That's everybody's choice,
Mhm.
and it's fun. It's fun in the right situation. New
Sure.
Zealand, a lot of it is, and it's fun. But that's not for that, not for a sheep. Not
Yeah.
for me, not for sheep. And I said, well. We got a misunderstanding here because I ain't hunting this animal.
Mhm.
So cleared customs with my gun. I had, before we got through customs and immigration in Turkey, I'd already called my travel agency, book me a flight. When's the next one? She said next morning at 6 a.m. And it was already 10 p.m. at night in Turkey. So I said, okay, book me. Cameraman and I were coming home. So
Mhm.
we went out, had dinner, and the outfitter, I mean, it just was my own fault. I didn't ask the right question. I thought I did, and he was evasive on the answers, and I didn't watch and listen. Um, so we had dinner and slept for 3 hours, and got back on the airplane and flew all the way back to Canada. So how do you pick a good outfitter? Back to your question. The best way is word of mouth. You know somebody that's hunted with somebody and you trust them. They're same like you are in terms of the way they hunt, how difficult and challenging what they like or don't like. If a person that you know can vouch for that, word of mouth is the best way. You can also check references, but I don't know one outfitter that gives, people that aren't happy, gives them as a reference. So what good
Sure.
is that?
Okay.
You know, you want to talk to somebody that's hunted with somebody. Uh, that's the best way. And the problem with that, there's some great young outfitters coming up that haven't taken enough hunters to have, a wealth of hunters out there that you can, you might have met or might have talked to or know. So it makes it that much more challenging and difficult for the newer outfitters coming up, and they can be great and have a great area. Um, so at that point, and they're probably less expensive than the guys that are well established. I've been doing it for since what did I say, 91. So I've been around a long time, over 30 years, and so I've personally guided over 400 hunters myself and outfitted for thousands. So there's a lot of people that will vouch for how good our operation is,
Sure.
or there's the odd one out there that doesn't like it. Well,
Can't please
trust me.
everyone.
Yeah, it's not because we were crappy. It might have been because of bad weather, bad luck is usually, but so at that point, if you don't know somebody that personally recommends somebody, then go talk to them face to face. And you should, if you're a decent judge of character at all, you can tell if they're all blistery and blah blah. I'm gonna give, they're gonna be dancing girls every night, and we're gonna the best finest tequila or whatever. If that's what you want, then go with the guy. If you're impressed by that or that's what you like to do on your hunts, then go with that guy. But if you got somebody that, we're gonna work hard, we're gonna, I'm gonna blah 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 blah. Um, personally, personally meet and get to know the outfitter and judge them. I mean, how do you make friends with people? They're like-minded. They have a similar philosophy of life. We tend to gravitate to people that are like ourselves. So find somebody like that and give the young guys a chance too. If they're good, they'll take care of everything that's in their power. Then hunting is hunting at that point.
Yeah.
And, you often get what you pay for if you're, expensive areas. White Mountain Apache Reserve is
Yeah.
an expensive place to hunt. There's a reason because it's a great place to hunt when you're not in a drought like there was the year I was there, but still a great place to hunt. Um, so yeah, picking an outfitter. Now, for me personally, I use it used to be the tags program.
Through
So
Cabela's.
yeah, Cabela's tags program. Eric Pollock has been my guy for oh, 25 years probably. Yeah, it has to be because I've been applying for 23 years for that desert sheep tag in Arizona. I was lucky to get drawn at 23 years.
Yeah.
Really lucky. But yeah, Eric's been running my applications for years because I apply in every state. A lot of people say you're lucky. Well, yeah, I've been drawn for three tags in the last almost 25 years. But I've applied in virtually every state that's got the animals I'm looking for,
Mm.
to hunt. Sheep, anywhere there's sheep, I'm applying. Anywhere, big elk, I'm applying. Big mule deer, I'm applying. But Eric runs all that for me. So back to your question, how do you find the outfitter? I go on Eric's say so. They've had a lot of people draw tags, and if they know an outfitter's they know I'm not going to settle for a half-assed outfitter that's,
Right.
just, they know because they're going to have to deal with me afterwards. And I call it scorched earth. If I'm unhappy with something, it's the whole world's going to know because it's going to be just you know. So Eric, I went on his say so. I know Eric really well, so if he recommends somebody, that's word of mouth to me. Now he's also got the benefit of those guys have directed thousands of hunters on these fancy tags, or not even fancy, just normal tags sometimes, 1 and 2 odds,
Yeah.
to various outfitters in various states. And they're great. I think they're the what do they call them? The Worldwide Trophy Adventures.
Hmm.
Now, WTA owns tags. They bought it from Cabela's or somehow they shifted over or
Right.
took it over. So Eric came along with that. He's great. Yesterday, my daughter Eva and her husband Tim they were at SCI and I saw them at a booth and I said, listen, you want to talk to Eric? So I did a group text yesterday for them to get together and because they want to start putting in Lenny Bow. She's
Right.
10, whatever age you're allowed, you
Yeah.
know, then hopefully she'll get drawn before she looks like me, which God forbid she ever would. But Tim starting now, at 40 is, how old's he going to be by and now you can get lucky first year. You could be drawn, which
Yeah.
by the way, you guys in Arizona, and there's a lot of you will maybe take offense to this, but I'm involved in a lot of states, a lot of states and in all the Canadian provinces. in Canada here in British Columbia, I've been trying to draw a Roosevelt elk tag on Vancouver Island for close to 50 years. I
Wow.
have no preference points, zero. So my odds are the same as a kid coming in that's first year, and I've never been drawn and I never will be in my lifetime. It's just pure absolute luck. One tag, one opportunity. Anybody, people put their whole family in, and there's no there's just no benefit to doing it long term. You guys in Arizona have the best system. And that's the part that will probably get guys upset because I know guys complain, oh, I'll never get drawn by. It's
Yeah.
still the best system, regardless. And that's in my opinion, IMO. I learned that on social media. That's what that means. So you still have the best system of all the states. I don't know if there's other states that follow the same system exactly, but I'm a huge, huge fan of what Arizona does and how they do it. Now, yes, I'm not a resident of Arizona. I get it. I get it that this should be all reserved for residents because that's what's fair. Well, no, it's not really fair because who owns the wildlife?
Right.
You know, the states and Canada, that each province is responsible for them and they can make the rules for their animals in their, within their borders. And I think it's very similar to the states, although you guys have a federal jurisdiction that oversees a lot of it too.
Yeah, I think a lot of the migratory stuff's managed federally, but then, non-migratory species would be on the states.
Yeah, so that's same as Canada.
Okay.
But I would love for British, 'cause it's too late for me, but British Columbia to go on that same draw system. Now the difference we have here, which you don't have there, and it's because your species are more exotic, really. Um, you could buy a hunt from me as an outfitter. I'm allotted, I think, I don't know, 7, 8% of the tags go to non-residents, which means you have to go with an outfitter. So any Canadian resident can buy my hunt. I get one tag every 5 years. I could buy my own tag. I just can't afford it. But
Okay.
it's so there is that at least that if, but again, it's just pure money. They're expensive. Not everybody, I can't afford my own hunt. Otherwise, I'd use my own tag instead of drawing for 50 years and bitching about it. So there is that. We have that benefit in a place like British Columbia, but I truly believe and you guys do too, governor's tags. I mean, you've got, I don't know if you have the regional governors or just one big governor's tag. I mean, but who can afford
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
What the,
Oh, unfortunately, they did away with that in Arizona. They basically took the stance, the auction tags they did that we're commercializing wildlife, and which to me is a shame because if my math, which I'm not a mathematician by any means, but that's about $1 million a year away from conservation, and we're left with the raffle, which is decent odds compared to applying for a sheep tag, but it's not bringing in the money that one $400,000 sheep tag is going to bring in.
yeah, here, watch me shoot myself in the foot. You just lost $1 million for your
Yeah,
conservation. Why? Commercialization. Who said that? Who said that? Who would have been the person or the people or the organizations that would have tried to vilify $1 million going into the conservation service? Well, that would have been started and promoted and marketed, and probably hunters jumped on the bandwagon
sure.
by animal rights groups.
Yeah,
So anti-hunting animal rights groups are the ones behind that because they don't want your conservation service to have any money coming from hunters. No, they'd rather the whole conservation service was disfunded or defunded, and then wildlife just lives naturally out there, and don't worry about mountain lions destroying the populations or diseases from domestic sheep. No one, they don't. Like I say, they want to love them to death, where they're all gone. And that's nature takes care of itself is their thing.
yeah,
Nature's always been before us. Oh, give me a break.
yeah,
You know, we didn't bring, nature didn't have domestic sheep in those days,
right.
bringing whatever the diseases that they have, tuberculosis that they infect the wild sheep with. They didn't have roads. Up in here in British Columbia, we build logging roads. You look at a map of logging roads overlaid over a map of British Columbia from 50 years ago compared to today. There's access to every single little tiny corner of British Columbia
Sure.
and almost. And what do you think the wolves use for trails? We've turned wolves into uber predators.
Yeah,
So They run the logging road for 50 miles, hit a deer track, go kill a deer, come back the logging road, run. Oh, there's an elk, kill that. Here's a moose, kill that. Oh, we're in the high country. There's a sheep. Let's kill that. We've turned them into uber predators. Don't tell me that nature takes care of itself. No, because we've affected nature. We have literally turned animals into more effective predators.
Mm,
So you 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 have to have a conservation service and biologists that are overseeing the welfare, stewarding the wildlife populations. So we just took $1 million out of their budget.
yeah.
Where is the reasoning behind that? The logic? Yeah, I get it. A rich guy gets to buy the tag, and I don't, and that's terrible. Would they just sell one? $1.3 million for one tag?
I heard about that.
1.3 million New Mexico tag.
Yeah.
One point, everybody listen to this. $1.3 million for one tag. That's not including regional tags or elk tags, mule deer tags, pronghorn tags. Have we actually defunded the service, the biologists for their studies by $1 million, or have we actually defunded it by somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million?
Mm,
Arizona, I'm betting it's a lot closer to that number.
wow.
So it's a terrible thing. And the hunters that jump on that bandwagon and say, the rich guys, give me a break. So they're rich. Who cares? And oh, they're rich and they're fat. I don't care. Oh yeah, but they didn't work for it. I don't care. What I care about is wildlife. So who am I to judge their ethics or morality or whatever, is it jealousy? Maybe a little bit.
You
You
wonder.
know, is that the reason we shot ourselves in our own foot? And in doing, have now defunded the ability of your conservation service and the biologists to do the studies. Your guys' studies are incredible in Arizona. What they've discovered in antibodies when you translocate sheep from one area to another area, you'll wipe out the ones that you translocated, or the ones that were there, the population that was indigenous in that area. If you don't do the studies, they're learning about all this now. How did they learn about it? It took studies.
Yeah.
And how do you get studies? It takes money. You know, and you're and we stood up. If there's a hunter out there that stood up and said, "Yeah, that's terrible. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're not a hunter who cares about wildlife. You're a hunter who cares about yourself and your own opportunities as opposed to the wildlife. You don't care about what happens in the future for your children and your grandchildren and their children after that. You care about yourself. My opportunity, I want,
Yeah.
same thing for the tags from outside. No one owns that wildlife. We're all responsible for it, regardless of whether we're from Arizona. And there'll be guys out there saying, "You just saying that because you got to hunt my sheep, and I've been applying for 40 years." You know, okay, what's your intent? Is to
Yeah.
help wildlife, which should be all of our intent.
Absolutely.
If helping wildlife means we can't hunt, or can only hunt one or two, then that should be what we all support. But supporting, not funding the biologists and the scientists that make these, onerous draw systems where I can't hunt till I'm 80. Well, that's the way it's got to be. There's 8 point whatever 3 billion of us in this world right now. Not everybody can hunt and hunt anytime they want. Sorry. Should have been born 150 years ago. We could have shot 50 sheep and no one would have cared. But
Right.
but now it's the way it is. So let's do what's best for wildlife. And you guys in Arizona have a great system in place, and you should all support it as hunters. And again, I never apologize, but I am sorry if that offends people. I'm sorry that you're not more aware of the benefits of those kind of dollars into the conservation service. And I think if I'm not mistaken, in the States, I just read a stat the other day, it's like 96% of your funding of their funding for the state wildlife agencies comes from hunters.
I
It
believe.
doesn't come from the big kitty. It comes from whatever your Pittman-Robertson Act and whatnot. So the more money we take out of the pockets of the stewards, and yes, we're all stewards, but we finance the actual stewards, which are the conservation service, the biologists, the officers out there. The more money we take out of their pockets, the more we're hurting the wildlife that we love. And yeah, you might get a better, if they just open it up, how many sheep do you think will be left next week? So
None.
go ahead, everybody shoot. No, I saw it in Saskatchewan. They wanted mule deer. They were worried about CWD, so they They said, go kill 3 does, mule deer does, and you can kill a buck. We'll give you a buck tag. Just bring in the
Mhm.
heads. And if you do it again and again and again, I know guys that killed 9 trophy bucks in one season.
Wow.
That's irresponsible in my mind. That's a point where you say, no, we stand together and we say, no, this is wrong. This is too many deer being killed out now. There'll be some scientist somewhere that argues CWD, CWD, CWD. And I'm not, I'm not a scientist, so I can't say whether it's right to kill all the deer or not kill all the deer, but I found that reprehensible. For me personally, I would never do that. But there's many hunters who would say it's my chance to go kill every sheep I can. I kill 3 ewes and I get to kill a ram, and I get to do that over and over and over all season. There's no rams left, no
Yeah.
sheep left. So it's let we have to support the people that are knowledgeable in their positions, biologists in the conservation service. So to me, not accepting $1 million because of some philosophical, ideal that it commercializes wildlife is absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd. And the motivation of the person paying the $1 million is irrelevant.
Yeah.
I don't care what his motivation is. I want his money. And yeah, one sheep gets killed, but look at the benefits. You save
No, all of
thousands.
them. Big
So
answer. Yeah.
so anyway, there's my diatribe, and I've lost all your viewers because of the talking about romance and how you can find
I
a mate.
doubt it.
Now I've lost the rest of them because they hate the wildlife service because they haven't been drawn for their tag for 40 years. Non-resident got drawn. I get it. I get it. It's unfair. Sorry. Welcome to life.
That life's not fair. Well, so for the remaining percent that's still here, you drew after 23 years. So I assume with loyalty points, that was north of 23 points by a couple, right?
I'm not sure what royalty points are, but that's Eric Pollock handles all that for me. And if
Okay.
he ever said you got to buy the license and you get an extra tag or whatever it is, I would do that. I
Yeah,
just, my free, so-called sheep hunt, oh, you got drawn. I probably spent $10,000
sure.
if there's cost to getting royalty points, I would have done whatever it took because you just do it. And over time, it's not as, just don't buy another pack of cigarettes,
Right.
then put it in towards your royalty point. And I don't know how the system works in
Yeah,
Arizona
so
now.
loyalty points, and it's after a certain amount of years, and I don't remember, I think it's 5, you get an extra point. And the only reason I know about that is if you don't put in consecutively, you lose those. So I forgot one year and I lost my loyalty points. So
Okay, so
um,
I would have been loyalty pointed to death.
I'm sure.
I thought you said royalty points,
Oh
and I
no.
was going, yeah, 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 King Jim. Yeah, loyalty points. And I would have had all that for,
I'm sure.
yeah,
So
for
you've had quite a few. And I'm assuming, if you don't mind sharing, it was a 31, 32 tag as far as the hunt.
31. Happy to.
Yeah.
And I did that because when I started, that was the best zone around.
Mhm.
Back in the day, that's where all the biggest sheep. I think your record comes from there.
I believe
You
so.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just kept, and I never had Eric change it to a different zone. I mean, it's a great zone today, but there was obviously bigger sheep back 30 years ago. When I started applying for all these things. So yeah, things change, areas change. I,
So
I just I'm going to tell you a quick story about your raffle ticket drawing things.
yeah.
Um, British Columbia, we did the same. We used to, excuse me, have a governor's tag, what they called it the
Mhm.
premium, and it was for any sheep species, and we have just about all of them in our, except for desert sheep in British Columbia. You can hunt after or before the season, blah blah blah, and anywhere. So they had one tag they auction off, and one tag was for the drawing. Right now, we only have the drawing, and I don't even know if we have that anymore. Actually, I think we do still, but they got rid of the same thing, commercialization of wildlife. They taken too much heat. Or the politicians were taking too much heat,
Right.
and they want to get reelected, and the urban centers elect people into power, so they, got rid of the thing that was helping the wildlife the most.
Right.
But anyway, a little whine again. I'm back on the same pulpit. But the auction tag, this was a bunch of years ago, probably 10 years ago or so. The auction tag went for $275,000. Right? That's how much money went into the coffer. Then they do the drawing. And, I know guys that would buy $20,000 in tags, just, or the raffle tickets,
Yeah.
hoping that their odds increase. One year, I get a phone call. I was in Turkey actually hunting, oddly enough, and it was a SATO call. Or from my office saying, you gotta phone the conservation service here, and here's the number. So, oh boy. So I phoned him up from Turkey, and I said, what's going on? It's Jim Shockey. They said, well, we pulled your name out of the hat for the winner of the BC Premier Governor's Tag. And I said, oh boy. I said, what, and this is a $275,000 tag.
Yeah.
I said, how many of you were standing around when you drew it out? He said, six of us. And I said, what was the first words out of everybody's mouth? And he said, oh shit. Right. Because again, even for the Arizona one on
Yeah.
social media, you get, the boo birds and the warriors all
Yeah.
saying, it's such a fix. How come there's so many famous or celebrities get drawn all the time? I mean, it's bullshit, but that's how people think when they don't get drawn. They just say, that's
Yeah.
not fair. It's not fair. Well, the fact that I've put in for 23 years and put in everywhere and every tag everywhere, they don't factor that in. And
Right.
and I'm old. So the odds are eventually the law of large numbers says you will get your name pulled out of a hat. And I got my name pulled out of the hat for the BC Premier's tag. Now, in my position, that's a big deal. I mean, I get to hunt a Boone and Crockett, Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep. That's
Yeah.
what, or a California, Boone and Crockett, California, I could have got, which I don't have a species of California. And I said, I said, give me a 24 hours to think about this. And by then the word has started getting out to everybody, and
Uh-huh.
and the bluebird started, and I phoned him back and I said, listen, rip up my tag and pull up another one.
Wow.
So the luckiest guy in the world wasn't me for getting drawn, which the odds were astronomical. It was the next guy because he actually had to have somebody that turned it down and said, just rip it up,
Absolutely.
pull up. And that young fellow has come to me every single show and thanked me. He's thank you, thank you. And he's not a trophy hunter. He got just a ram, any old ram. Like wasn't anything special. He's just a good guy. This was the hunt of his lifetime. And so anyway, back to the the boo birds and saying that it's unfair and the rich guys or the famous guys or the celebrities all get drawn. It's a crock of crap. And even when they do get drawn, like I said, I turned down a $275,000 tag
Yeah.
that I could legally hunt 100%, and I gave it back. So just not worth the negative
Yeah.
press. And
Oh,
to be fair, I get to hunt all over the world and have opportunities that everybody else doesn't. So for me, it's another hunt. But for that fellow that got it, that's the hunt of a lifetime. The one single hunt of his lifetime that'll, you know, it's like pinnacle of his hunting career. So there, that's a little sideways. Anyway, go on with whatever you were saying.
that is a true class act. Wow. I would like to say I would have done the same, but I don't know that I would have. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
if you're in my position, you would have, because it was the best choice, the right choice. They would have the screaming that would have gone, he's not a resident, he's not a, whatever these idiots would have, you
Yeah.
know, tried to create, or it's a fix, or he gets publicity. You just want it's just not worth it. And again, it's what do I care about? I care about the wildlife. So would that have helped me,
Mm,
care about wildlife by taking that tag and getting that monster sheep? No, it would have hurt the wildlife.
mm.
The negativity that would have been associated with it would have hurt the conservation service, would have hurt the wildlife. It wasn't worth it. So I care about wildlife. Not I don't my hunting opportunities. If you said tomorrow you have to stop hunting because it'll be best for wildlife, I would do that. Whatever's best for wildlife is what I care about. Now we know that that's not the case. Hunting
Right.
is what helps wildlife. So it's kind of I don't have to worry about that because
Right.
it's hunters do good for wildlife. So yeah, you'd do the same thing. Any true hunter would.
I appreciate that. So getting into your hunt, tell us all about it. Where you flew into and how you got out there, and let's hear the story everyone's been waiting for.
Well, here's number one. Don't always believe what you see on social media. Like it was I mean, I went with Sam Derringer, all his, you know, unbelievable outfitter. Those guys are so good at what they do. And here's the thing about this tag. I don't live in Arizona, so I can't be there scouting every day and knowing what animals are there and getting up in the mountains and loving it. I was hunting, what was I hunting on my own ranch in Saskatchewan, the week before for white-tailed
Mhm.
deer. I got drawn. I have to be drawn on my own ranch in Saskatchewan that I've hunted for 40
Wow.
plus years. They made the rule change here about, I don't know, 10 years ago. So I have to be drawn. Landowner, biggest taxpayer in that area. It's 2,200 acres inside, not the city limits, but certainly the Saskatoon sort of regional zone right there.
Uh-huh.
So it's close to town, 20 minutes away, and
Oh,
I got
wow.
to be drawn now. So I don't get drawn on my own ranch every year. I have to, get drawn, and I'm going to hunt it. And this year I was hunting there, and I couldn't be scouting for sheep in Arizona, and nor would I anyway. That tag, yeah, and plus I already had booked to go to Mexico on December 1st.
Hmm.
I have to write the sequel to my
Other
Call
side.
Me.
Yep.
Um, so I have to sit. I need somewhere. If I sit here at the museum, this kind of stuff goes on. I'm playing, having
Right.
fun, enjoying, whatever. I love moving stuff in the museum, setting, looking for new treasures. So I needed to get somewhere to write. So I had Mexico booked, and Serena and I were going to head down there on December 1st, and then I got this call from Eric Pollock saying you got drawn, which is wonderful, but it meant that I lost the first whatever 10 days of my paying. I had to pay for it. You're not going to get those
Yeah.
days, I'll give their money back.
Yeah.
And so at that point I don't have the month of December. Now if I
Mhm.
lived in Arizona, then I would have had the month of December and I would have crawled every one of those mountains and I'd have found as much as I can these days. I'm not a mountain goat anymore. So I needed a good outfitter. And this is the one thing that, what's the perfect hunt? For my dad, if you can get done on the first minute of opening day, get it back, get it butchered up into the freezer, and be back at work by noon, that was a perfect hunt because all he cared about was the meat.
Mhm.
Just the meat. There was no spirituality on this thing. There was no coyote wind in the morning with the sun rising in the mist. No, no, no. It was push the bush, deer comes running, bam, shoot it, and cut it up, and you're done in the day. Good hunt.
Yeah.
Doe, fawn, didn't matter. But so I'm the opposite. The best hunt is the one that ends on the last day of the season, December 31st. Oh, I can't do that. I don't have the time anymore. I don't have the luxury of that time in my life. Too many responsibilities, too many people rely on me for their mortgages. I can't take a month off to do that when I should be
Mhm.
writing the sequel to Call Me Hunter, which is an international bestseller, by the way. So I signed a two-book deal with Simon and Schuster in New York City and I don't really want their lawyers coming after me because I've never had a lawyer come after me in my life. I want to start now. So I have to write.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility. I gave my word that I would do it, so I'm going to do it. But I got drawn for the sheep tag. The last day of the hunt wasn't an option.
Mm.
Now, but it's not, I'm not hunting for meat. So I don't want to shoot the first animal I see either. So
Right.
you know, the choice is you go with a reputable outfitter that knows the area. I mean, I didn't know the roads. I could have figured it out. I could have talked to everybody, the conservation service. They would have helped me saying, go here, hike here. But Sam Derringer knows those roads, knows those sheep. He's been doing it forever.
Hmm.
So I hired him. And that's good and bad because you're you're not going to get the full meal deal. 31 days of hunting sheep in Arizona. How cool would that be? I mean,
Oh,
that's a dream to be able
yeah.
to do. I do it in the Yukon. I'll go up there and hunt, but we're filming for my shows, and I will do it up there, but I could not do that for December. So Sam and his team, it was either if it was on the east side of the one canyon, I can't remember the creek that goes through there. It's real pretty.
Aravipa
Yeah,
Canyon. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. We were hunting above it. You can't use the creek to access it. Apparently, you had to come
Mhm.
above it. I remember I got in late that night and we were up early the next morning to drive whatever, an hour and a half, and then on quads or side by sides another hour and a half to get back where we could start to hike. Um, but there was people in the bottom, one guy in bare feet that was hiking that whole trail in bare feet.
Oh
I guess
wow.
that's a thing nowadays for the urbanites. I don't know. They watch that Naked and Afraid show, so they're
Oh.
training for it. Um, that guy that produced that show, by the way, Steven, what's his name, last name? Anyway, he had come to me before he ever had that show going and was trying to
Mhm.
get me stuff. And I said, look, I'm not gonna do stupid crap. I mean, I work too hard to have a reputation of doing things smart, not stupid. So, we kind of laughed about it. Actually, so did Animal Planet, and Nat Geo came with a check and said, here, we're going to start shooting in 3 weeks. We want you to be, and
Oh
if
wow.
you're crossing this river, if you fell in the water, we're not telling you to do that, but fell out of the canoe or tipped it, that would make better television. I mean, really, the whole
Yeah.
idea is, the five rules: safety, 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 and safety. I'm not going to do stupid stuff. Walking around your bare feet where there's snakes and thorns is not smart. It's not following those five rules. But anyway, I'm getting off topic again. But yeah, beautiful canyon. We ended up going out that way. We had to get permission to carry
Hmm.
recovery. You can go out that way down the trail. It's gorgeous, gorgeous. But yeah, Sam and his guys, they had several sheep, that they knew about that were the right age class and what I was looking for. There was actually a bigger one, but I didn't think it was as pretty as one that I wanted, went after. So that's one we specifically hunted for that ram, and it was, yeah. Look, I can hunt a moose, and I do that. People say public land. All my hunts are public land, because that's where I hunt for
Right.
Saskatchewan, Canada. Most, Yukon, it's mostly public land. 90% of it is. So, I can go hunt moose, and I can sure as heck get you a big caribou and grizzly bear. Hunted all those three animals, got them all on my own territory, public land. I can hunt. I know how to do it. I don't think I have to prove to anybody that I have the capability. But that wasn't my doing. That was Sam and his guys. They're just really, really good at what they do. So they knew about the ram, and I said, I'd like to go after that one. They said it's a lot harder hunt than the other ones that they knew was closer to the roads and blah blah blah. So no, I don't want easy hunt, but I want to, but you kind of do want it to last, but you kind of don't too.
Yeah.
23 years it took me, and the other guy that got the tag was 35 years, and he was 81 years old, I believe he was.
Wow.
So, and that was the other reason too. He could go after the easier one that was bigger,
Mm.
but
Sure.
not by much, just longer and scored higher. But I was thrilled to go after the one I got, and like I say, it's a mixed blessing because it's a relief when you get the animal when you've taken that many years. I mean, what's a tag worth for desert sheep? Down in Mexico, I don't know what they're selling them for. I used to outfit down in Mexico, and we'd sell them back then for 55,000. I don't know what they are now.
So it'd have to be close to six figures for
Yeah,
sure.
I would think so. Yeah, the way sheep are going now. I mean, the stuff I was hunting in Mongolia, it was $250,000 now.
Wow.
You know, it's not going to happen. And that's without, well, it's starting to be the Russian market getting involved, but we haven't even tapped into the demand from China or India. And there's hunters there. Historically,
Mm.
10% of us were hunters, going way, way, way back. So
Yeah.
once that crowd starts, I mean, there's more billionaires in China, than anywhere. So
Good
I
point.
think that's the number one place for Rolls Royces and Bentleys is
Huh.
China. So when those guys start to realize they can go, I've said it before that I believe our moose hunts will end up being over $100,000.
Really?
It's not unreasonable. And guys say, oh, it's unfair. There's 8 billion of us in this world, and yeah, there's just no nice way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, I'm getting way off topic, but all the credit for my sheep hunt goes to Sam and his guides, not me. I was literally just go here and do that. And like I say, you do it because 23 years, you don't want to not get something. You
Absolutely.
spend that much time dreaming about it, thinking about it, but then it's kind of a anticlimax when you go there and the work's all done, other than the actual hiking, which I
Right.
think the day I got the ram was 26,000 steps according to my cell phone. So, but I mean, that's nothing. I've done more steps on a New Mexico pronghorn hunt than that.
Yeah.
So So, there was no, I mean, there was some ugly stuff. We didn't need ropes or anything, but it was Sam and his guys. That's 100% of the credit. And to Eric Pollock and the tags program, those are the guys that do. I was literally the trigger finger guy, and I wasn't that good at that either, actually. But I'm not used to using a rifle. What can I say? But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say other than it was they did all the hard work, and I got to enjoy the benefits of their miles and miles and miles. And I can also add that I was totally missed the memo about how to dress because they were jeans and cowboy boots, and I was like wearing my full camo. It's like, well, that's what I hunted. I don't know. It's not
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
need it necessarily, but that's what Cabela's. I use their instinct gear, and I love it. I'm not a Kuiu guy or anything, but
yeah,
I like my Cabela stuff. That's what I hunt with because it's convenient and easy. But I guide in my jeans.
yeah.
If I'm on Vancouver Island, I've always guided in jeans. I've never, I could have fit right in with those guys. Almost, they were tougher, but yeah, yeah, anticlimactic. What can I say? They did all the work in the months ahead of time, and I showed up and like Hollywood got the round.
What rifle did you pick for that hunt?
It was a Christensen Arms 300, or what do they call it? My brain's gone dead. PRC,
Uh-huh.
which I love that caliber. I guided Steve and Jason Hornady in my
Mhm.
own bear territory one time for 5 days, and they were the ones that it was their science behind the R&D of the bullet design
Mhm.
and the shape and all that stuff. And it was a proprietary caliber used by your U.S. military for a lot of years.
Hmm.
So they couldn't sell it, couldn't talk about it. They can only, they did the R&D on it, but then when it, got into the public domain after so many years, you
Oh,
know, they
okay.
they told me about it, and I was a big 338 Ultra Remington Ultra Mag fan. Big heavy bullet, 225 grains, and still with fast and a thumper.
Yeah, it's a hard hitting round.
It is, yeah, and I was a big fan of that. So then I had Jason and Steve in the truck, and when they started explaining the science behind the shape of the bullet and how they were using Doppler, measuring out to 2 miles on these bullets, and it was for snipers, and they needed the fastest, heaviest hitting possible round caliber combination of bullet weight, 212 grain bullet, out of a 300 PRC, and seated way out in the neck. I don't know all these things they talked about.
Yeah.
Uh, when they explained the science behind it, and then I got my hands on one and Christensen Arms gun and started using that over the last few years, and it's just my favorite caliber. I mean, I love it. It's 212 grain bullet. It's a heavy bullet, and it's a thumper, as opposed to the 225 heavy, bigger, rounder, and this one's faster, I don't know, terminal velocity and all. I'm actually not a gun guy. It's a tool for me. Um, but there's no question when I see it in practical use, how hard it hits. It's a serious caliber, more than you need for a sheep. It could have, I don't know, there'll be guys out there. I use what's the latest 6.5, whatever
Yeah,
that.
the Creedmoor, 6.5
Yeah.
Creedmoor, and there's one in the PRC family as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, great, good. If you're comfortable in that, my attitude is there's no such thing as overkill. Guys will say that's too much gun. Really? You know, you're you're killing the animal. So what if you can handle the recoil, which is really it's the noise that scares people more than anything. You have a proper recoil pad, who cares? But there's no such thing as overkill in my mind. It's good. More energy, better. It's
Yeah.
I'm simple that way. My dad was the opposite. He was a Jack O'Connor 270 fan.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
gun than anything. Jack O'Connor killed everything. Well, yeah, because he didn't really have good choice on the other side of it. I guess at the time it was belted magnums. My dad was a huge hater of belted magnums. Weatherby is too much for anybody. One of my
Okay.
favorite calibers was 300 Weatherby. You
Yeah.
know, when I started guiding with a 220 grain round nose soft point bullet, if I had to back up on a bear, that was a great caliber. It was fast if I had to back up at 200, 300 yards when I was going to get in the bushes,
Mm.
which we do because people get eaten if we don't make sure there's more bullets in them. But yeah, so I use a 300 PRC. and Leupold VX6 scope, their latest, greatest, I think 3 to 18 power, or maybe it was 6 to or 4 to 24, but which is my favorite scope, is the VX6s from Leupold. Um, yeah, Hornady ammunition, 212 grain bullet. So yeah, and Christensen arms. That's, I could have gone with any gun manufacturer, and I went with Christensen. I like their guns.
Nice. How far was your shot?
Depends on who you talk to, and see, I don't hear real well. So they were talking behind me, and I was, how far, like it was downhill.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and what was the wind? I don't know, all these things. I was trying to pick it up, the conversation behind me, and it was either 300 um, true ballistic distance or 349, whatever
Okay.
it was quite a steep downhill shot. So depending on what I heard 300, and I was trying to crank the scope, and this is a gun that I had not shot, by the way, not one bullet out of it, which is terrible. Everybody listening go, what a amateur. But Sam had shot it, and he said, yeah, it's accurate out to whatever. So if Sam can shoot it, I can shoot it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long shot. I pulled the first one. It was kind of quartering away, and it was going to get around a corner, and so I pulled a little bit off to the right. Um, and then I shot again, and it dropped. So we thought it was dead, but it stood up, after that. So I had to shoot it again. Ugh, I'm not proud of that, the shooting, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was. I'm blaming the wind. I'm blaming the angle. I'm blaming everybody except for myself. So, I, and there's guys that, I'm used to a muzzle loader, and your
Hmm.
technique has to be good. I mean, you've got to hold that gun steady after the squeeze, because the barrel, it's still that time down the barrel. If you're, you know, jumping to look or whatever, you got to hold it steady. And yeah, I let's just say it wasn't my finest shooting day, but I mean, he was dead, but
Yeah.
still, I like one heart shot done and it's all over.
Yeah.
I'm used to one shot. I'm not used to you got to shoot again, you know,
Yeah.
unless I'm guiding. Guiding, I use a rifle, always have, but I shot muzzleloader for so long, or archery, that rifle is kind of new to me. Not started with it way when I was 14, but
Right.
put it aside a long time ago and went to archery, realized I wasn't good enough, and I would never be Chuck Adams. So I went to muzzleloader, which was perfect because it's a combination of rifle. I can shoot 80 yards if I need to, and
Yeah.
bow and arrow, that if it's at 40 with not the perfect angle, I can still make the shot. Uh,
Absolutely.
so I used muzzleloader for all those years. So that's my excuse too, just not use rifle.
Did you consider using a muzzleloader for this hunt?
For about 2 minutes,
Okay.
and and I've shot one, two, three other desert sheep with a muzzleloader.
Okay.
So all the different species. I've done it. So and that was when I was a lot younger, a lot more capable of climbing. I mean, I didn't care about ropes and technical climbing to do what I had to do, which I had to do on my first one
Hmm.
down in, and so and I've shot way up in Boone and Crockett. I don't know, 178 or something. And that was all muzzleloader. So I don't. I didn't need to prove it. And this is 23 years to get this tag, and again, it comes back to that you want it to last till the last minute, but you also want to make sure you get your animal, because
Yeah.
you put so much time and effort into it. It's not like, a hunt you're ever going to be able to do again. There's other times I don't care about not getting an animal. What's the big deal? I'll just go back.
Yeah.
Lots of times I've done that all over the world. I didn't get
Sure.
one. I was with muzzle, or didn't have the range that I needed to. I'll go back. I'll go back and I'll go back. Some of them three times, Bezero ibex, to get one. So many animals actually, when I start thinking about it, but you can't go back and get this one.
No.
This is a one-shot deal. So I could have done bow and arrow too, but also remember I had to get down to Mexico on the 6th, so I
Right.
didn't have time. And
Yeah.
so you muzzleloader is great. I love it when you have the time.
Yeah.
you know, or you can do the hunt over again and over and over and over. And you can't do that on this hunt.
No.
So yeah, like I said, I considered it for about 2 minutes. I considered bow and arrow for about 30 seconds. Yeah, no, not going to do it.
No, I think that was the right call. Well, Jim, I appreciate it. This been an absolute honor and a blast to have you on the show. I don't want to take too much of your time, but in closing, being one of the most well-respected outfitters out there, everyone knows you, everyone appreciates you. For the guides out there, I do a little guiding myself. What is something you wish you could tell yourself all those years ago when you took your first client?
It's about service. It's not about the biggest animal. I mean, I was responsible for clients dying because I was pushing too hard. You know, they catch double pneumonia, and I get the family a month later saying, we hate you, you know, because I was pushing to get the biggest animal for the guy. I know he wanted the biggest animal. He was willing to push to that limit, but you know, I was hunting more for me, you know, instead of seeing what the client would be happy with. So if I had to do it all over again, it would be aware of what your client wants. If he wants you to, you know, not everybody wants to kill the biggest animal, you know, or go after or put the effort in to get the biggest animal. Many times they just want someone to talk to, tell their story, you know, their wife left them and they're sad and they, you know, they want to talk and you're a therapist then. So you listen. There's many times they want to hear stories about you, this exotic life, and that, you know, a guide, wow, tell me stories about hunting. So you tell the stories. You know, it's a it's about the client and not about you as a guide. And just being a good hunter doesn't make you a good guide at all. In fact, I don't think that's even 10% of being a good guide. You know, service. They you know, if their coffee cups almost empty, go get up off your fat ass and go get the coffee and fill their coffee cup up. Is there anything else? Ask them 10 times a day. Is there anything you need? Is there, you don't, I like peanut butter and jam sandwiches, but you know, you like ham and kumquats, then get ham and kumquats for the guy. You
Yeah.
know, ask them. They don't like white bread. You know, get brown bread or whatever bread. They like sourdough. Get sourdough bread. Eggs. My guides, if you ever watched my shows, I run them through a cooking test basically that they have to pass. And one of the primary tests is do they know how to cook eggs? You know, some guys like eggs that are overdone, dried out, horribly sunny side up. To me, I wouldn't eat the damn stuff. But but you know, I like my eggs with no shoes on the bottom. I mean, no fried hard brown stuff on the bottom. And it's got to be easy over, and the yolk cannot be hard. It's got to be soft, but the white has to be cooked. And it's a skill. But
Yeah.
once you can do that, you know how to do eggs properly. Then you can do the fried ugly eggs if they want it. But ask them what they want. Give them what they want,
Mm.
not what you think is right. And I go to camps all the time. Hey, we're having venison stew tonight. Well, you know, I eat stew all over the world. Like literally, it's the first thing anybody serves. I don't want stew. You have catfish in right here, and I know I see it in your fridge. I want catfish. I don't get to have catfish. I love catfish. I don't want stew. You know, ask me what I want, not what you think I want. And you know, get up before the client. Never, ever, ever should a client get up before the guide. My guides know all this. They go to guide university before they're allowed to guide anybody.
Sure.
You know, I personally will run them, they call it boot camp. You know, get up before. You make the fire. You make the coffee. You know, you make sure that everything that guy or that client wants, they get. And and be there to serve them. It's a service industry. And figure out what makes them happy. That's what you have to do. It's not about the big animal necessarily. And maybe it is. And if it is, 100% go at it. You know, but don't kill your client trying to accomplish what he wants when he's not really capable of it. You know, yeah, you're trying to make his dream come true, but not at the expense of you know, sorrow for his family later on. And that can happen if you're guiding in the extreme kind of conditions that I've guided in my life. So yeah, service. Never forget it's about the client. It's not about you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I sincerely appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. It was fun.